have no doubt that this probably raises his stock in Trump's view, but that's not the issue. I mean, the military can't function if it turns on itself. And I wonder what the placement of someone like Gaetz, a top DOD, does to the military.
It crushes morale. It creates consternation. It impacts recruiting and retention. But that's in part what they want to do. I mean,
why?
Pete Gaetz is a culture warrior. We've talked about this before. He's a very effective culture warrior. And Trump is sending him to the Pentagon to wage culture war on the Pentagon. And he said that wokeism is the problem. Wokeism is not the problem in the military, but military sexual assault is, and extremism is. And even if he has no associations, even if he's innocent, this looks terrible, and it should be disqualifying. He's being nominated for a position that used to be occupied by Republicans like Bob Gaetz and Dick Cheney and Chuck Hagel. Can you imagine if Chuck Hagel had these tattoos and was accused of these things? He would be disqualified. So I think we're coming into a guardrail moment where moderate Republicans like Mitt Romney and Susan Collins and others are going to have to decide, is this acceptable? Is this an acceptable level of risk to impose on 2.7 million people who work at the Pentagon and inside the Defense Department?
I mean, I guess my question, I want to press you on the sexual assault allegations. I mean, you've got in the reporting in the Post and the New York Times, you've got a confirmed police report from the Monterey police. You've got a confirmed rape kit result. You've got a letter sent to the transition team, and it's clear that the Trump, let's just keep this in MAGA world. It's clear that the Trump transition team felt blindsided by this. What is the implication for the military and for the military's ability to root out and protect men and women in the military from sexual assault if the person atop the department is an accused assaulter?
Well, this is the cascading effect of the command climate that Trump himself has created. We said that these were the things that should disqualify him as commander-in-chief. The voters thought otherwise. Now he's emplacing people who are going to echo that kind of command climate. These are all chips off the old block right here. I mean, that's true across the board. And he's also got a very radical pick for VA secretary. So they're going to be bookend culture warriors attacking both the DOD and the VA simultaneously and trying to meet in the middle in a way that satisfies Trump's goals. But keep in mind, we've got women in combat right now. They are forward deployed in places like Syria and around the world, and they have to trust the people who lead them. And how can they honestly trust a person like this with this many allegations, and even more importantly, a person who says he wants them out of combat roles? We can talk about his personal issues, we can talk about disqualifying, but the policy issues are also very important. He wants to remove women from combat roles while they are actively serving in combat roles. That's something that not only Trump is going to celebrate, our enemies will celebrate. Vladimir Putin, North Korea, they love to see this kind of disruption in our military while we're trying to keep things warm and settled around the globe.
Paul?
None of this is normal. None of this is acceptable. And none of it's inevitable. I actually think that Trump has made a miscalculation here by nominating so many of them early, because somebody like Gaetz, he got nominated a week ago. It could be 2 months before he has actual hearings. And there are plenty of people in the media and in Congress who are going to start to try to hold the line, at least, I hope, for some semblance of ethics and integrity, especially around institutions like the Pentagon, where integrity...
What does that look like? I mean, because I guess I take your point, and Trump hates bad press, right? Like, that's his standard for everything, a war, a nominee, a policy. I mean, what is your sense of what it would take to tank either of those nominations?
We have no idea what's yet to come. And I think that's really important. I mean, it's clear now how many people hate Gaetz even within his own party. So Trump is creating a fight that maybe he didn't have to have. But I think what he's also trying to do is just wear everybody out. I mean, Bannon's talked about flooding the zone. And plenty of people are defeated and they're still licking their wounds. And he's rolling forward while everybody else is trying to figure out how to re-strategize. So I think it's a test for our democracy, for our press, for Congress, for the Republican Party. I do believe there are some people in there who still care about ethics, who still care about our institutions, who will put up a stand. Maybe Mitt Romney, maybe Susan Collins, maybe Mark Wayne Mullin. I don't know who that person is going to be, but I think especially around the Pentagon, that they understand how serious that is. I don't think you can throw them all in one big lot, and recognize that we have 2 more months to go for them to further disqualify themselves. And they're trying to wear America out. That's really what he wants us to do, is throw up the white flag and say, all right, we're okay with Matt Gaetz. We're okay with Pete Gaetz. No, we're not. This is not acceptable. This is not normal. And it's a national security risk. Let's remind everybody that this is a legitimate national security risk if we have a person who supported insurrection running the Department of Defense.
I agree with you on all the substance, but I guess on year 9, I've never seen Republicans. I mean, Mitch McConnell went to the well of the Senate and said Trump was guilty of everything for which he was impeached, and I will do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of whistleblowers yet to come. Jane Doe may speak out any day now, right? We held our breath for people like Mattis and Kelly and so many others to speak out against Trump, but I think this is a lot more personal. Mm-hmm. There are some people that have personal issues with Hegseth, have personal issues with Gaetz, and, you know, revenge can be a mother, right? I mean, there's plenty of people who want a piece of Matt Gaetz and they want the whole world to see it. So I'm never underestimating the power of a political party to eat its own.
Yeah.
And that might be what we see over the next couple of weeks.
Super interesting. Story about court-martials. I understand that it is very much on the table. We know from Esper's book that Trump wanted to do it to General Stanley McChrystal and Admiral McRaven. I also understand that the reason Esper writes about it is because there were bulwarks against it. I understand from all of our conversations that what is radical about Hegseth and Trump 2.0 is that by design the guardrails are gone. Just take me inside the state of play and anxiety inside the Pentagon.
Trump telegraphs his punches. He tells you what he's going to do, and then he usually does it or tries to do it. And he's telegraphed his punches about removing the guardrails at the Pentagon since he was a candidate talking about Milley. He said he would fire Milley, he would fire CQ Brown, he would fire all these people. Now he's in a position to do that. So he's telling us what he's going to do, and we should take him seriously. We should respect that that's what he wants to do, and he wants to empower people to execute that strategy. And even if he doesn't, the chilling effect is tremendous. Right now, there are people in the Pentagon saying, am I going to get fired? If I get fired, how do I pay my bills? If I lose my retirement, where am I going to live? How do I keep my family safe? This is a very real conversation among senior leaders at the Pentagon. And if Trump wants to execute it, he's not going to say they're not loyal. He's going to take something like the Afghanistan withdrawal and try to use that as a lever to identify people that he can then remove the other way. So it's all exceptionally serious and beyond the politics. That's why I've always said he's not just a political issue. He's a national security issue. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's nothing that someone like Putin would love more than to remove an entire crop of senior leadership from the Pentagon at a time when the U.S. is engaged around the world.
How can people protect them?
I think this is an example of where, like, the citizens are going to have to rally. If, for example, they fire a bunch of people at the Pentagon, people have to do what Trump supporters have done for war criminals: raise legal funds, create legal defenses, create PR teams, create a political operation to help these people and their families make the case to the American people, protect their benefits and their jobs. And if they lose them, they need a place to land, right? They need a place to get a paycheck to keep their families safe while this political storm continues to churn all around. It is a very real possibility he could remove people from the Pentagon, and they don't have a job.
Who've done nothing wrong.
Who've done nothing wrong.
An institution whose hallmark is the chain of command.
And if he wants to talk about doing things like court-martialing McChrystal, people who were out, he's also talking about taking their retirement. Now, we know these names like McChrystal and others, but there are plenty of other folks that just served nobly for 20 years and don't want to lose their retirement. That's really what we're talking about by threatening to court-martial people, not just kick them out, but also take their retirement, their stability, their livelihood. And that's going to move some people closer to him just because they're going to want to cover their butt. And that's why this is so troubling and so it should be a priority, maybe above all else.